Hey, it's Mike Rowe, and it just occurred to me that ZipRecruiter has been sponsoring my podcast, The Way I Heard It, for the last 10 years. Consequently, I've agreed to sing their jingle at the end of this commercial in 4-part harmony, all by myself. Why would I do that? Because years ago, when the MicroWorks Foundation was expanding and I was desperate to hire a few uniquely qualified individuals, I posted a job for free on ZipRecruiter, and I found the people I was looking for in less than 24 hours. It's that simple. Ever since, I've been telling my audience that ZipRecruiter got me the most qualified, most interested people. And now I'm telling you. Post a job for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip and watch what happens. That's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. And now, here's their official jingle in 4-part harmony.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match at ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Did you know that driving under the influence of marijuana is illegal? Driving high will get you a DUI. And if you're wondering if law enforcement can tell you're driving high, well, everyone else can. Friends?
I can tell you drove high.
Parents?
I can tell when you drive high.
Relatives?
I can tell. You drove here high, didn't you?
So what makes you think law enforcement can't?
I can tell.
If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on this episode, we're going to go back to our recently released mid-season Top 50 Prospects update and look at it through a little bit of a different lens by highlighting the players that made the biggest jumps from the preseason Top 50 to the midseason Top 50. And I think that this year is particularly noteworthy because one player we're going to talk about on this episode has had the largest jump of any player in the 6 years that we have been doing this show. And if you follow us over at Substack, oriolesontheverge.substack.com, you likely saw Nick's write-up of the players we're going to talk about tonight on this episode. But just to start off here, just with general comments about the list. I think it was interesting to see how it evolved recently because of the trade deadline and the top 50. But it feels like you had a really interesting group of guys that started out the year outside the top 30 and perhaps even outside the top 50 altogether that have really risen over the last few months. And Nick, just kind of give us your thoughts before we start getting into specific players about the group we're going to be talking about on this episode.
Pitching, a little bit more pitching, a lot of really good pitching on the rise. And then, just some middle infielders. I think there are going to be 2 middle infielders, although both playing a lot of center field this year as well. But I go back to before last year, I think, when we really sat down and you realize going into the 2025 season, like the middle infield or just infielders in general in the system was kind of a weak point. There just was really not a lot there. And now, I mean, those are the positions where you're seeing some of the bigger rises, I think, this year. And the Orioles did a really good job, I feel like, of adding talent to that demographic into the organization. But again, when you graduate Mayo and Westberg and the long list of guys that they did and the guys that they traded, that's going to leave you with a big hole in the organization. But they've definitely filled that void there with some guys on the rise and guys where there's still plenty more ceiling with some of these guys, especially one in particular that we're going to talk about. But yeah, it's fun to see some of these guys, just the massive climbs that they had. And, there are some guys even that jumped 10 or more spots even. But I feel like that would have jumped more spots. But when you saw the amount of talent that they were able to bring in with the draft and at the trade deadline, I think that prevented some guys from rising up a little bit higher. But we got some dudes on this list that have become some of the bigger risers in the system, and not just in the Orioles system, but in all of Major League Baseball.
And the biggest jump in that group belonged to left-handed pitcher Caden Hunter, who went from being unranked preseason to 5th on our midseason update. And if you've been following Hunter this year, you've probably seen some really impressive performances from him as he's climbed through 3 levels of the Orioles farm system. He actually began the season on the IL with Delmarva, but was activated within a few weeks, put up good numbers there over a handful of starts, and that earned him a promotion to Frederick. And the one thing we talked about at the time of Hunter's promotion was that we like the stuff, and especially with the velocity he can bring, pumping the fastball in the upper 90s from the left side. But there were clearly some things he needed to work on. He needed to get more efficient, get deeper into outings, start to cut back on the walks. That's exactly what Hunter did in Frederick, and that earned him a promotion to Chesapeake, where he's pitching now. And in fact, his time there kicked off with back-to-back 10 strikeout outings. So that has really allowed him to rise, not just on our list, but a lot of national lists over the last few months. And Nick, you pointed out something interesting over our Substack, which is that in the 6 years we've been doing this show, we have not seen a player rise this far up our list this quickly. I don't believe Hunter even got a vote from the three of us to have a spot on the top 50 before the season started. And now he's ranked 5th overall.
Yeah, and it wasn't because you didn't think he was a good pitcher. It was just, he is a college lefty with decent velo, but not like elite velo. Like the high end velo came at the end of the year in relief outings during playoff matchups. So of course, adrenaline's probably pumping, but he didn't show that sustained velo in college. He had the knee injury. It's not a stock lefty profile but it is a college profile that you're going to get drafted. That's for sure. But what's the ceiling? And so we didn't really understand, I think, what Caden Hunter was bringing here until he got to the mound in Delmarva. And there was some fun quotes. Apparently BaltimoreBaseball.com still exists. But Jordy Henry, the pitching coach for Frederick, I guess gave some quotes to Baltimore Baseball a couple of days ago when I was digging around for this article. And he had some great quotes about some of the top arms in the system. And about Hunter, he said, look, it's an elite fastball, which the math checks out. He's sitting 95. It's 19 plus inches of induced vertical break, nearly 7 feet of extension. He's not a tall guy to begin with. He's got a little extra, sit the F down behind the fastball as well. Can't quantify that, but it is there when you watch him pitch. The math checks out. It is truly an elite offering. But Henry also said that Hunter, he entered the organization with what he called AA level command already, especially of the fastball. So entered with a pretty good foundation to build off of. He flies through single A, he flies through high A. I think now he's being definitely appropriately challenged in AA. But also mentioned that he's got goals. Like they understand that the secondary is what needs work. And they've got goals, working on the changeup, working on the breaking balls. And it's just kind of scary to think about if it's almost the end of the year. I don't imagine he has very many innings left in the arm this year. I think he was at 70 last year in college, and he's getting closer and closer to 100 innings already as a pro. But next year, if we see those secondaries take a step forward, like that's going to unlock a whole nother level for Caden Hunter, which is awesome to think about. But, it's just, we knew this was a college arm with a premier fastball, and he was using that, relying on that to kind of blow past hitters in single A and high A. And now he's being challenged, and you didn't see him challenged early on, those first two outings, like you mentioned, but his last outing, he kind of had to labor there through those 3 innings of work. It didn't look his sharpest. I think that was really the first time he kind of got punched in the mouth a little bit. And I was anxious to watch, couldn't watch yesterday, but was anxious to turn on that Chesapeake game this morning and watch the replay of Hunter's outing. He was going to get that rematch against Reading, but I think that game got washed out. So he doesn't get that. He's got to sit with that a little bit longer. I like that though. I think whether he's starting Tuesday or they push him to Wednesday, whenever he pitches again for Chesapeake, I think that's going to be, it's always must-watch TV, but this is particularly must-watch TV because if he goes out and gets punched in the mouth again, like he's not going to fall in our rankings. I don't think anybody's going to change how they view him. You shouldn't. But I do think if he steps up and he dominates again, like that's just like you're holding the clipboard, checking off the box, shaking your head, smiling. You're imagining what he's going to look like in 2027. This is going to be a big test for him this week. Not a do or die test, but still something that you like seeing these younger guys get challenged for the first time, especially getting challenged at AA with an arm like Hunter with that fastball to rely on. Let's see what you got after you get knocked down.
Yeah, that was a weird outing because he was so dominant in those first 2 innings. It was like, oh gosh, he's never going to slow down, and then just completely lost the command of the fastball and had to kind of groove a couple in there. And I think that's when the problems really started. It was a little scary when he started shaking his arm out a little bit and the trainer came out. I think he was probably just frustrated and and stretching or what have you, luckily. But still, he's my number 2 prospect on my personal list. So, yeah, from unranked to number 2 for me from preseason to now, pretty crazy. I mean, we've seen this happen with the Orioles in the past several years, where these pitchers, we always expect it, like Braxton Bragg, Trey Gibson, could go down the list, Nestor Armand, but man, Hunter came in with a vengeance, and it's pretty awesome to see. And what did we talk about when the Orioles started drafting these more high caliber arms with better fastballs? We said, if they can develop these arms the way they've developed arms in the past, look out. And we've been looking out, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it happen right before our eyes.
Yeah, his rise really has been something to watch this year, and I agree with you, Nick. It's going to be interesting to see how he bounces back from that tough start against Reading last week. It's unfortunate he didn't get a chance to throw on Sunday, but hopefully he bounces back from that.
Hey, it's Black.
And Abdallah.
Labor Day weekend is upon us, and football is back. Our listeners are getting ready for tailgates and game day celebrations.
That's right, Black. But if marijuana is part of your plans, remember, driving high is driving impaired.
Yes, sir. Research shows that marijuana impairs motor skills, lane tracking, and cognitive functions, putting you, your passengers, and everyone else on the road at risk.
Make the right call before kickoff. Plan for a sober ride home.
If you feel different, you drive different.
Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
Did you know that driving under the influence of marijuana is illegal? Driving high will get you a DUI. And if you're wondering if law enforcement can tell you're driving high, well, everyone else can. Friends?
I can tell you drove high.
Parents?
I can tell when you drive high.
Relatives?
I can tell. You drove here high, didn't you?
So what makes you think law enforcement can't?
I can tell.
If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
Sleep Number's new collections are designed to adapt to the changing nature of your life and your sleep needs. Whether it's the personalized comfort of the Comfort Mode mattress, the targeted pressure relief of the Comfort Next mattress, or the Climate Collection that actively cools or warms to help you fall asleep and stay asleep.
And now, all beds are on sale during our biggest sale of the year. Save 25% on the new Comfort Next Luxe, plus free delivery on any mattress. Ends Monday, only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
And I'll go over now to the player who I guess really qualifies for the second biggest jump on the list, and that is Jaden Loray, who was unranked, has climbed all the way up to 20th on our list. And we talked to Loray at the beginning of the year, right when he was about to begin his FCL season. Very polite. He was a great interview, but he specifically said during that interview he wanted to be a top 30 prospect at the end of the year. He hit the ground running in the FCL, putting up very good numbers there. And then you look at what he's done in Delmarva coming into this week, hitting .339 with 16 extra base hits and a 158 WRC plus in 50 games played. He's done that all while sporting a strikeout rate that's all the way down 8.8% to go to 16.6% walk rate. So what we've seen from him in the plate this year is he makes very good contact, very good judgment of the strike zone, and an added value, I think, for the Orioles and an added bonus for him is that he can move around the diamond a little bit. He was drafted as a shortstop, but we've seen him at second base this year. We've seen him at third. He's been getting a lot of time in center field with Delmarva, although I expect that that's going to get cut back a little bit now that Ty Head is there. But Loray has bounced around the field, and from what we can see purely with the eye test, has looked capable at those positions. I think that given that he's 19 years old, still a ways away from the majors, we don't know exactly what his defensive profile is going to be down the line, but you're starting to see the makings, I think, at least of a interesting utility player, if not a little bit more in Loray.
I think a lot more, to be honest. I think he's only gotten better, which is one thing that I look for in these super helium guys is if you can get better during the season as it goes on, that's a great sign. Samuel Basayo did it. Gunnar Henderson did it. The big guys done it. Not saying that Jaden Loray is going to reach that level, but the way he got out of the gates in the FCL with a 116 WRC plus, didn't strike out much, was walking 12%, hit a home run. It was like, wow, I think we have something here. He gets to A-ball, and in 220 plate appearances, he's got a 158 WRC plus. He's walking way more, striking out still barely ever, showing a little bit more pop, 12 doubles, 2 triples, 2 home runs, just batting .339, getting on base .461. It's ridiculous stuff. Honestly, he justifies another promotion to Frederick. I think the only thing keeping him back is that maybe there's not quite the room in Frederick for him right now. But I think he would merit the promotion, another promotion, if they wanted to get him in there for a playoff race, get a little more experience that way. Man, I am just so impressed with this guy, and he's playing second base, shortstop, third base, and center field all pretty well from my eye, at least when I've watched him. And man, I only think we're not shooting him up as high as we did with Nate George last year, because I don't think he has like that raw athleticism where you can dream on that extra level of development, but he is more polished than Nate George was. And yeah, it's impressive to see. I love it. Every week, it seems like I wait for him to slump and start striking out, and he just does better and better.
Yeah, I think you can make room in that Frederick infield too. I love you, Colin Yeaman, but you ain't done nothing this year. And like we can mix some Jaden Lowe, and I think that promotion is got to come, because Frederick's going to be in the playoffs. So I would love to see him get some playoff time. But I said this morning in that article, like when he came on our show, I love the aura. That kid knew he was the shit, and he had zero lack of confidence, and I loved it. But I also felt like there was no reason to, because he was 18, 19-year-old kid entering his first year pro ball out of high school. But like we could have probably pushed him a little bit on something, and he would have handled it like a pro. Like he had that part down. But I kind of left that thinking like, I like this kid, but we got to see it. We didn't know what type of prospect he was going to be. He's from Utah. How many kids are coming out of Utah ranking highly on top prospect lists in baseball? Other sports, I don't know, maybe. Baseball, not very many. So I just felt like, all right, we got to see it first. And he's going to be in the FCL, so we're not going to see it with our own eyes for a little bit, but hopefully the data looks good. Like, we've seen it, though. Like, we've seen it across 2 levels now. We should see it at a 3rd level this year. He doesn't turn 20 until February, so he's not going to celebrate his 20th birthday until he's in Sarasota for spring training next year. Like, and I think I mentioned this again in the article as well. I think we might see more power from him next year, just because he's still only 19 years old. So he's going to he doesn't have that frame where he's going to bulk up tremendously and add, 15, 20 pounds of muscle, but he's going to get stronger. He's going to grow out a little bit more physically. And that in that limited FCL data that we can see, he had a 50% hard hit rate. It was a 105 max EV. Like, he was running into the barrel a good bit. I think it's something to take into account there, that he also does a pretty good job of keeping the ball off the ground. So maybe as he gets a little bit older, a little bit more mature physically, he could be a guy who pops. And I don't say this just because he's going to be in Frederick most of the year, where obviously offense gets ballooned, but I think legitimately he could be easily a double-digit home run guy next year.
Completely agree with that assessment. Maybe we're not looking at a guy that's going to max out at 25, 30 homers a year in the big leagues, but there is definitely power potential there because of how consistently he makes contact, and you just rattled off the data from the FCL. Limited sample, but that suggested there's a lot of quality contact, and at his age, you figure there's more physical projection left for him to add power, and you put that with the game that he has now, and I definitely think that you're looking at a guy that this time next year is going to be much higher than 20 on this list.
Yeah, like a 4% swinging strike rate. You throw this kid anything in the strike zone, he's making contact with it, and he's doing a good job of driving it. It's not a bunch of worm burners out there. Like, this kid's been impressive year one.
Yeah, I feel like guys his age, like, what are they going to do this offseason? They're going to take in everything they have from the season prior, and they're going to hit the weight room and improve their strength in a way that the Orioles know how to have it translate on the field. And bold prediction, maybe not so bold. I think he's going to be on at least one top 100 list in 2027.
I like that you're planting that flag now here in August and not in the off season.
Yeah, now everyone can forget I said it and don't hold me accountable.
Let's go over now to two pitchers that made a pretty high climb up the list. Now, there really are three that we could throw in here. This is Kiefer Lord had a pretty nice bump up the list from 49th to 35, but some things to note there. Lord was probably lower on our list than he should have been because he was fairly recent coming off the Tommy John surgery, hadn't had a lot of innings in pro ball, and he's currently on the IL right now at Frederick. So I don't know that we have much to say about Lord at this point, but it is worth pointing out that he had a pretty nice jump from the preseason update to the midseason update. But two pitchers that are active right now, throwing very well at Double-A are Joseph Giroux and Sebastian Gongora. Giroux has climbed up a lot of national lists with his dominant performance this year, and that allowed him to move from 14th on our preseason list all the way up to third overall. This is a player that we knew had good command coming into the farm system, but I don't know that we were expecting the numbers that he has put up this year. 112 innings across two levels. He has a 2.01 ERA to go with a 30.3% strikeout rate and a 6.2% walk rate. He's also limited opponents to a 172 average against with just 5 home runs allowed. And it's worth pointing out that just when you thought that maybe Giroux had kind of leveled off, he had one of his best outings of the season last week against Reading. That allowed him to earn Eastern League Pitcher of the Week. So he's still going pretty strong for the Bay Sox, and he's also put up these kinds of numbers in two very hitter-friendly ballparks in Frederick and Bowie. And then the Bay Sox have another left-hander that has made a big climb up the list this year in Sebastian Gongora. Gongora was ranked 40th on our preseason list, and he's all the way up at 23rd this year. And you look at the numbers across 101 innings this year, they really speak for themselves. 3.91 ERA, 22% strikeout rate. The strikeout rate is down slightly from what Gongora had posted at high A last year, but the walk rate has been cut by nearly a full half, from 12% to 6.9%. And Nick, I want to start back with you here, and you can choose to talk about Giroux or Gongora first, but you had some interesting findings with Giroux at Just Baseball interview where he talked about some of the gains that he made over the offseason. And then in the case of Gongora, this has been really interesting process. I know that you had the bold prediction at the beginning of the year that he would be pitcher of the year. Most years he would be right in the thick of that race right now, but it's really, I think, Giroux with Hunter as 1A. But can you talk about the development of both of these guys a little bit this season?
Yeah, let's start with Gongora. He doesn't have like that elite fastball that Caden Hunter does. I don't even know if he really has like that offering like a Nestor Herman splitter, where you look at that pitch and you're like, that's going to get big league hitters out. Like, you can say that pretty confidently, but like, he's got the full arsenal of bugs flying around. Average to above average offerings. Strikeouts are down this year, but we've commonly seen this trend. We've talked about this trend a lot with arms over the years. They get to Double-A. There's that bigger emphasis on getting yourself to play in the zone because, like single A and high A, those hitters are going to chase your junk, and they're not going to do that anymore once you get into the upper levels of pro ball. And like my thing with Gongora is just I think I've watched all but like 2 of his outings this year, and like every outing isn't pristine, but you look at just the raw 264 average against. Like I will continue to beat this drum. I don't think that tells you a very good job of how productive he's been this year in Double-A, because when you watch him, just how many times have there been multiple hits? He might give up 6 or 7 hits across 5 innings, but how many of those are actually hard hit balls, like good contact against him? Some nights it's all of them, but most nights it's only a handful. And it's just, unfortunately, it's always been like, and this could be another knock that you do see with him. It's when there's 2 strikes, does he have that go-to offering where you feel confident? You're like, I'm going to shut this guy down and get the strikeout that I need with this pitch. Maybe not. He has some good options, but as far as like elite, like some of those other offerings I mentioned, he may not have that, but he gives up a couple of infield singles that you're like, how do you get 3 of those in a row? Like, that's baseball. It's just unlucky. He's getting BABIP to death. Softly hit balls that just find grass in the outfield, and then he gives up that good, like, hard contact that it's a double and 2-3 run score, and the inning gets prolonged. But I think for the most part, and Baseball America mentioned this. If you read Baseball America's write up on him right now, they talk about last year, the numbers, the ERA, not telling the story of how good Gongora was because he did a really good job of limiting hard contact. If we had the AA batted ball data, I would bet money that the barrel rate against the hard hit rate against Sebastian Gongora is pretty low. And so I just think he's learned to live in the zone. And I know Fangraphs mentioned Gongora's profile. He's the perfect candidate to add a cutter, add another offering. If you find he's getting hit around too much in AA, he's that high slot lefty. He repeats his delivery very well. And given his current pitch mix, he's a prime candidate, someone who could add another offering or two when he gets up to AAA and to try to continue to stay off the barrel and maybe limit those base hits a little bit more. But he's just continues to go under the radar this year. And I rattled off 30 names in the article, I think. But you look about how are you going to, all these guys are not going to be in the organization next year, but they all are right now. And if you look at the list of AAA, AA guys and guys who are going to be fighting for AAA time next year, it's impossible to find innings at this point in AAA next year, but it will work itself out somehow. How Gongora fits in all that, I think, is going to be a good question. And I'm interested to see kind of what the Orioles tell us as far as how they value him next year.
Yeah, that's a great breakdown. And he's well surpassed his highest innings pitched. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's hitting a little bit of a wall here, but successful season no matter how it shakes out down the stretch. Yeah, he had pitched in 1.2 innings in 2024, then 68.1 last year and 101.1 already this year. So probably get close to 120. That's pretty good setup for next season at least. But yeah, and even though his strikeout rate is down this year, his K to walk ratio is pretty much identical to what it was in high A last year. So he's walking less. That helps offset the fact that he's not missing as many bats. Plus, I feel like we've talked many times in the past about how when pitchers get to Bowie or Chesapeake, the game plan seems to be to lower that walk rate, make your pitches a little bit hittable as you're trying to learn to command the strike zone better. So not surprising in that matter. Very impressed with Gongora's really season and development. Just he's cemented himself as a bottom of the rotation starting pitching prospect in a good way. Innings eater lefty, like a left-handed Dean Kramer. That wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And
did you know that driving under the influence of marijuana is illegal? Driving high will get you a DUI. And if you're wondering if law enforcement can tell you're driving high, well, everyone else can. Friends?
I can tell you drove high.
Parents?
I can tell when you drive high.
Relatives?
I can tell. You drove here high, didn't you?
So what makes you think law enforcement can't?
I can tell.
If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA. Did you know that driving under the influence of marijuana is illegal? Driving high will get you a DUI. And if you're wondering if law enforcement can tell you're driving high, well, everyone else can. Friends?
I can tell you drove high.
Parents?
I can tell when you drive high.
Relatives?
I can tell. You drove here high, didn't you?
So what makes you think law enforcement can't?
I can tell.
If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
Sleep Number's new collections are designed to adapt to the changing nature of your life and your sleep needs. Whether it's the personalized comfort of the Comfort Mode mattress, the targeted pressure relief of the Comfort Next mattress, or the Climate Collection that actively cools or warms to help you fall asleep and stay asleep.
And now, all beds are on sale during our biggest sale of the year. Save 25% on the new Comfort Next Luxe, plus free delivery on any mattress. Ends Monday, only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
I don't know if we got to Giro yet, but man, he's the same exact pitcher in AA, dominating as he was in high A, and almost double the innings. He's got 71 and a third innings in AA, 1.89 ERA. It's kind of crazy how similar his numbers are. Ground ball percentage, identical, 40.7 in high A and in AA. His FIP is 2.70 in AA, 2.74 in high A. His strikeout rate went from 31.4 to 29.6, walk rate 6.3 to 6.1, pretty much identical. Yeah, I think he should be in AAA at this point, to be honest with you. But there's a lot of good pitchers in AAA that are starting games down there. So maybe there's not quite the room, but he's just not even being challenged, it looks like, from my vantage point.
Yeah, completely agree. I don't know that we'll see him get to AAA this year just because of how high the innings are, but he certainly would be worthy of it from a statistical standpoint.
Yeah, it's if you go back and read the Baseball America write-up that they had on Jira coming into the year, it was how he would fit nicely in the back half of a major league rotation if he brought attention to the breaking ball and increased velo, which I think that's a safe profile for a second round pick, right? And he's added multiple ticks to the fastball, and he's developed multiple secondary offerings, multiple breaking balls. He has the fantastic command, and as the rest of his repertoires develop, the changeup plays up more. So like he's checking all the boxes, and I think he's even the most bullish scouting reports coming out of Michigan State. I think he's exceeding those. And yeah, we talked about this a little bit in the Top 50 episode where like, he did an interview with somebody from Just Baseball and talked about how he's added 15 pounds, which has helped him add a little bit of velo. Also some slight tinkering, but they really haven't had to tinker much with the delivery. But that's helped add the velo to the fastball. I know Jordy Henry said he's added like a gyro type slider to the repertoire. So it's unbelievable what this guy has been doing. And yeah, you think he's about to maybe start to shut him down a little bit, or maybe he's about to hit that end of season wall. And then his last 3 starts have been 6 innings, 1 hit, no runs. 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs. 5 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs. He did have 1 unearned run. So he hasn't given up an earned run since July 24th. It was almost a month ago. And I know there are a lot of arms in AAA. You've got Gibson, you've got Povich, De Leon, Ferret, Watts Brown, Herman. Those are 6 starters right there. But I feel like you mentioned the innings. Maybe I'm sure there are a lot of guys in the system who are nearing their innings limit. It's about time to think about starting to shut it down a little bit. Maybe you still move them up to AAA. Like you can, I know you traded probably $15 for Cody Hire. You can, move him, Zulueta. Like there are some guys in that Norfolk bullpen that you can move on from, and maybe start piggybacking some of these guys, extend their seasons an extra week or two, help get them to the finish line while also giving them a little bit of a taste. Let Jiro work with the ball a little bit, work with that AAA strike zone. And so he's ready to rock and roll for 2027 when he begins in that rotation.
As for the last player we're going to talk about tonight, and this is another position player who had a big rise coming from preseason to midseason. That is Brandon Butterworth, who went from 39th on our preseason list up to 20th. And I think that all three of us were kind of on the same page about Butterworth at the end of last season going into this year, which is from the limited sample we saw after he came over from the Padres in the Brian O'Hearn, Ramon Laureano trade, there was a lot to like about Butterworth. Can move around the diamond a little bit. He had some good exit velocity gains that he had posted in the Padres system. Those carried over to his time in the Orioles. And he also had been a more patient hitter after the trade, increasing his walks. But we still wanted to see a little bit more of what the Orioles have gotten in Butterworth. Now, he has been limited by an injury he had earlier this season. So just 52 games with the Bay Sox, but he put up very good numbers in that time period. 269 batting average to go with 10 doubles, 10 homers, and a 13% walk rate while stealing 12 bases in 13 attempts. He also had a significant jump in WRC plus, going from 93 last year to 123 this season. That allowed him to earn a promotion to Norfolk, where he appeared in a couple of games last week. And with the tied season running a little bit later than the other minor league clubs, he'll get probably an extra week or two worth of at-bats at the end of the year. Set him up nicely for probably starting 2027 back in Norfolk. And Nick made a good point here, which is that when you watch Butterworth play, you can see a little bit of Blaze Alexander in him. There's a long way to go there still with the development, but you can see where, with the profile, the good bat-to-ball skills, you could be looking at that kind of player in a few years.
I mean, yeah, he's played second base, third base, shortstop, left field, center field, right field. Like, he's just all over the field, and he's pretty good from what I've been able to tell everywhere. And his arm can hold up to any position. It's a great arm, especially for how, I hate to say little, because he's like taller than me by half an inch, but for as little as he is, he's got a great arm and good range, and really does everything right. All the little things. He's a good runner, good hitter. He's got sneaky pop, so he's kind of like one of those surprising 5-tool guys who's not going to be elite at any of them. Well, maybe the arm's pretty good, but yeah, I think he's certainly. We talked about Jaden LeRae, how he could maybe be at least a utility player in the majors. I think I see that more for Butterworth than LeRae. I see a little bit more upside in LeRae, but Butterworth, man, he's going to be major league ready maybe halfway through next year if there's a major league season. So right when the season's kicking off in July, he'll be ready to make his major league debut. But he can help you out in a pinch. Great guy, because it doesn't matter who goes down with injury. He can probably step in and play that position and give you competitive at bats, the grindy, dirt squirrely type of play that Orioles seem to like lately. And I can't lie, I kind of like it too. But Butterworth is a ton of fun to watch. And if he does make it to the majors, he's definitely going to be a fan favorite.
Yeah, right when Jordan Westburg goes down to another injury, Butterworth will be hot, ready to go. Yeah, I know. I've seen a couple of people ask like the Blaze Alexander comp, and like maybe Butterworth is going to strike out more, but he's going to walk more. I don't know who hits the ball harder. I'm sure Blaze probably hits the ball a little bit harder, a little bit more impact on the ball, but yeah, just that general vibe of like, you need a guy out second base tonight, third base tomorrow night, center field for one night. Butterworth is going to be the guy that can run out in any of those positions and play good defense, and a guy who I think could be just a solid, like 2-WAR player or so every year, give or take a little bit every single year. Just a guy you want to have in your organization. And yeah, well, he's got I think there's 6 weeks or so left in the AAA season. So only 2 games with Norfolk. There's no point in looking at any of the data or numbers yet. But in a couple of weeks, I think it'll be fun to kind of look at. We'll get the full picture of Butterworth's batted ball data and stuff. And that'll be fun to dive into and look at and get a better idea of what he could bring to the big league squad.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm more interested in that data than I am the back of the baseball card stats because, that we have left this year, I don't know that his batting average and his OPS are really going to tell us a whole lot, but with the batted ball data, knowing that he had those gains immediately after going in the Padres system, if we see signs of that over these final weeks in Norfolk, I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, I agree. At least he'll extend his season, and maybe he'll even extend it more by going to the AFL. Don't know, but
that'd be a good call.
He didn't miss a ton of time, but he did miss enough where I could see it. But that AAA time is going to help a lot. We'll get some data. He'll get the experience, and hopefully Aaron Estrada can join him. Let's get these guys up to the levels they should end the year at. I'm excited to see who gets that end of year bump for a couple weeks before the season's up.
That's a good way into our final segment. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. But if you're not heading out to the game or the Orioles are out of town, Checker Spot is a good place to go and watch the Orioles because they have good beer and food to go along, plenty of TVs to follow the action. Plus, they're open 7 days a week, so be sure to check them out. Checker Spot Brewing, located 1421 Ridgely Street in South Baltimore. And now I think we might have given away the answer a little bit to at least half of this question earlier in the show, but wanted to pose this one here in the final segment. 2 players that have already played at multiple levels this year that are highlighted on this episode, Jaden LeRae and Caden Hunter. Do either of them have a strong case or at least a strong probability of being promoted again before this season ends? And with LeRae, we just kind of touched on a lot of the argument for possibly bumping him up to Frederick, but Hunter is a little bit of an interesting case because he still just has 3 starts at AA under his belt. 2 excellent ones, one where he hit a little bit of a rough patch. But it is worth noting that in terms of innings, he's still pretty far behind Joseph Giroux. Giroux entered this week with 112 innings pitched under his belt compared to 84 for Hunter. The early season injury has pretty much everything to do with that for Hunter. So, in theory, if the Orioles are comfortable with where he is and they want to stretch him out a little bit before the season ends, there could be an argument for promoting him to Norfolk. I don't know that there's necessarily the room there for it right now, but I think it is perhaps worth discussing here? Could Hunter have a 4-level season?
Hunter, I don't think so. I think he's going to get shut down with AA, if nothing else, just because I think Giro's going to get the bump up to AAA. You already got Herman, Gibson, Fourette, Jerron Watts-Brown, Luis De Leon. Like, there's only so much room unless you want to just throw him in a bullpen and get a couple innings up there. But I don't think so. But I do think Jaden LeRae will finish in Frederick with at least in the playoffs or the week before the playoffs. They'll get him up there and try to help him win a championship. Would be cool.
Yeah, Jane LeRae is, you got to. It's 50 games already. So he's got 220 plate appearances in single A, and it's a 158 WRC plus. The walk rate is nearly double. It is double the strikeout rate. So you really don't have much left to prove in single A. Again, like I said earlier, I would love to get him up in Frederick. You got room on that infield in Frederick, and just get there and get that playoff experience. Let him get that under his belt. How much does that matter? I think for a 19-year-old kid, it probably matters a good little bit. Like I said, he clearly wants to prove to everybody that he's very good. And yeah, let's see that. Caden Hunter, I agree. I don't see it, just because it was 70 innings last year at USC. This year's up to 84. So yeah, give him a couple more starts. Get him close to that 100 innings mark this year. 100 innings across 3 levels in your first year of pro ball. Like that's a haul. That's a workload. So job well done. You've risen to the ranks of one of the top pitching prospects in the system, and a potential top 100 guy on national list as well. You've done your job. So just like we mentioned earlier, just get over this hump. You got punched in the face. Can you get back up now and then continue to work on those secondaries in your last couple of outings? And that's a successful year. And yeah, if you're going to promote somebody up and try to make room in that AAA rotation or bullpen, whatever, it's got to be Giro, because like, what's Joseph Giro going to prove in AA at this point versus you can go up and like say what you will about these names, but I was actually looking real quick. Like the Tides play Durham next week. You give Giro one more start in AA just for the heck of it, just for funsies, whatever. One more. I think they're home this week. Give the home crowd one more Giro outing, but then send him to Durham next week, and he gets to go up against a lineup that's going to have like Jack Sawinski, Austin Slater, Jake Cave, Justin Henry Malloy, Nick Madrigal. Like, yeah, those aren't like dudes at this point in their career, but I'd much rather see a guy like Giro face a lineup like that instead of some random AA lineup. Like, that would be a lot of fun to watch, I think. But yeah, good season regardless for Caden Hunter.
Absolutely. With that does it for this episode. We will be back next week. In the meantime, you can check out our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, and Twitch. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to over to Patreon.com and sign up to become a member today to $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to bonus weekly shows from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list, Patreon exclusive channels within our Discord community, and you also have the opportunity to purchase discounted hats or t-shirts from our new merch store. If you sign up to become a paying member of our Patreon community, you can receive a promo code to get a 20% discount on hats or shirts from there. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.